Arlo and I had been married probably about 5 years when we decided we wanted to try to have kids, and got pregnant not pretty easily, but we got pregnant and had a miscarriage, had another miscarriage, and then we decided we needed to get some more help to figure out what was going on, and went to an infertility specialist, spent many years going through IVF, and finally decided after a long time we were ready to give that up, and we actually adopted our first son through the traditional means, and it was a wonderful experience, and he's a wonderful boy. So when we were ready to think about a second child, we weren't sure what we wanted to do, because our first experience with traditional adoption had been so smooth, and you hear all the horror stories. We're like, oh no, what if the second one is terrible? You know, it would have been easier because we had Cameron if it had gone badly. But I also wanted to know what it felt like to be pregnant. That was kind of important to me as a woman, to be able to experience that. And right when we were in the midst of discussing the second child, a woman in our adoption support group wrote an article for the newsletter about how she was involved in adoption support group, but also involved in a breastfeeding group, because she had gone through the Snowflakes program to have her first child. And I read that, and just something was like, oh my gosh, I've got to try this.
This incredible option that we'd never even heard of just seemed kind of unbelievable. But once I wrapped my head around it, it just seemed like it was it.
With just kind of the simplicity, just knowing the basics was good enough for me. And then I knew he'd look into it farther. I knew Arlo would take care of that part for me.
I kept expecting to find some catch or some loophole or some aspect to it that wouldn't work for us, that it might be too good to be true, and there was something that was going to pop up that would all of a sudden be a deal breaker. And there wasn't. It was, for us, it was the perfect combination of everything.
We just felt like, I don't know, it was kind of like, this is almost too good to be true. That this beautiful, loving family could be willing to, help us out in this process. So when we got the spores profile, they just seemed like, as much as you could tell from paper, they seemed like the perfect couple. And we were matched, and the paperwork was completed. The embryos were shipped. Our doctor got my body ready with medications and constant, visits to the doctor, making sure that everything was preparing itself for the transplant. And we got to transfer, and we got to transfer day. And we had received 6 embryos from the spores. 3 of them survived the thaw.
We had been prepared for that by our doctor, saying, these are the statistics. This is normal for 50% to survive the thaw. And we knew that we had 3 embryos, 3 little lives waiting there. And we also knew that the idea of triplets, frankly, was a pretty overwhelming idea. But we had gone into this knowing that, revering all life, and knowing that we would not make any decisions that would not move life forward.
Pregnancy, the wonderful experience of feeling them grow and move inside of you, and just knowing that I had life growing inside of me was just a miracle. Dream come true. So then, we had an early birth. They were a little premature, but they were healthy. They didn't need oxygen. They just needed to grow and learn to eat, and they were there. They were alive and breathing.
Beautiful. The gratitude is overwhelming. In fact, it almost feels like, when you start to think about it, that you don't have the capacity to experience the fullness of the gratitude that I know is there.
It's really hard. It is really hard to put into words how I feel about Jennifer and Jason. They're incredibly giving and unselfish people. For me, who never had the chance to have the experience of having extra embryos, more than enough embryos to build my family, their gift to us is just beyond measure.
what my children get to experience is the benefit of a larger family. That it's not about the fact that we're parents and there are these other parents out there, in Jennifer and Jason, or in Cameron's case, in his birth mother and birth father. It isn't that there are that we're an additional layer of parents. It's that we're the parents of these children, and these children get to experience the love and the support and the hopes and dreams of more people than they would have otherwise. That Jennifer and Jason are, there. Granted, they don't live in Kansas City, they live half a country away, but they're there praying and wishing and hoping and dreaming for all of our kids, for the twins as well as for Cameron, because there's siblings. They are siblings, and there's that connection.
I think embryo adoption is just a miracle in itself, and it's a miracle that creates hundreds of other miracles right now.
I feel lucky and yeah.
Embryo donation and adoption. Share the hope. Learn more at embryoadoption.org.